Hi, it's me, and today I was feeling a little curious and I have some spare time this summer, so I thought I'd run my kit lens through my lens review tests. It's helpful for a photographer to have a decent camera lens to work with, but the best photographers can use almost anything to get good pictures. There's no denying that the Canon kit lenses have improved enormously over the years, and this version certainly represents great value for money. It's small, light, cheap, and image stabilized. I've got the slightly newer 2 version of the lens with the all-black barrel, which I think looks much cooler than the previous versions. Overall, the lens looks nice enough, but it's a little plasticky and the barrel is wobbly. The zoom rings on these lenses always start out nice and smooth, but soon they begin to get jerky, as you can see here. It's only really a problem if you're trying to get a nice smooth zoom action while shooting a video. The lens barrel extends in and out as you zoom and also during focusing. As you can see here, the focus ring isn't very generous, with no distance markings and not a very smooth feel. Manual focusing is perfectly possible with this lens, but not exactly a pleasant experience, especially as the front element twists and pulls as you do so, which is annoying if you're using a polarizing filter. I've found the autofocus to be mostly accurate, but it's a little slow and quite noisy, as you can hear here. There's no full-time manual focus, so you have to switch the lens to manual focus before you touch that focus ring. If you force it around while it's in autofocus, then you might damage the motor, so be careful. Let's take a look at the all-important picture quality, firstly at its widest angle of 18mm. With the aperture wide open at f3.5, the picture quality is okay, but not great. If we look closely in the center, we can see that the picture is a bit soft, but not too bad. The biggest problem seems to be some purple fringing on contrasting edges, as you can see in those windows. I hate purple fringing. It has the wider impact of reducing the general contrast in an image. The purple fringing actually pops up fairly often when you're shooting at 18mm and f3.5. Here you can see it in another picture. At 18mm, the corners aren't particularly great either when you have the aperture wide open. As you can see here, there is a little chromatic aberration, those weird colours on contrasting edges, although the problem isn't totally out of control. There's also some softness on the extreme edges of the picture. However, if you stop the lens down to f5.6 or f8, there is a vast improvement, especially in the corners, and the middle of the picture is looking great too. Let's zoom in a little to 28mm and see the image quality in the middle of the zoom range. Wide open at f4.5, the picture is really nice and sharp, and the corners only show a little softness. Stopping down to f5.6 or f8 increases the picture quality even more. Although it's not totally perfect, it really is decently sharp, and I'm not seeing any particular optical problems. Finally, we zoom in to 55mm. The lens's maximum aperture at 55mm is a measly f5.6, which is really quite slow, and at f5.6 the picture quality is only good. It's reasonably sharp and clear in the middle, getting softer in the corners, with some noticeable but not too bad chromatic aberration popping up. Stop the lens down to f8 and you can see a very nice improvement, and the lens is decently sharp in the corners again. And back in the middle, it's very sharp indeed. So basically, the picture quality of this lens is good enough when used at wider apertures, and excellent throughout the zoom range when you stop down to about f8. The most important thing for a lens to have is sharpness, because the one thing you can't do in editing software is replace lost detail. Thankfully, there is lots of sharpness to be found on this lens. Colours and contrast are pretty good, and the lens handles bright lights quite well. For me, the worst thing about this lens is the barrel distortion at 18mm. I hate barrel distortion. It's a real annoyance, especially as my Canon 17-55mm f2.8 lens did so much better. You can see the barrel distortion on this brick wall. You can get rid of it using editing software, but it's still annoying. I really like the image stabilization on this lens. It's nice and smooth, which makes it quite good for video work. but a real weakness for video work is the variable maximum aperture. Take a look at this video footage. As you zoom in, the lens goes from f3.5 to f5.6, getting darker as you go. This is a pain if you're filmmaking and you want to zoom in and out a lot. Your best option is to set the camera to f5.6 from its widest angle at 18mm. That way the camera will calculate the same light levels as you zoom in. However, you will still get the annoying light level changes as the lens adjusts itself. There's absolutely nothing you can do about this. That's why, if you're interested in filmmaking, it's a good idea to upgrade to a faster, constant aperture f2.8 zoom lens. But still, within its limitations, you can do some quite good film work with this camera lens. The lens has 6 aperture blades, so when you stop it down, you get 6 pointed sun stars with bright lights. The macro performance of this lens is a real strong point. You can get pretty close to your subject, as you can see here. In the past, the biggest problem with kit lenses was poor image quality, but this lens is actually a fairly good performer, especially if you stop it down. This means that now, the biggest reason you might want to upgrade is that the kit lens is so slow. It really doesn't let in much light at all, which makes it hard to use indoors or in dark situations, although the image stabilization certainly helps with this. But image stabilization cannot stop action in the same way as a lens with a wide aperture, and the slow and variable aperture is a real hindrance to filmmaking. Also, the build quality of this lens is grimly functional, to put it kindly. But the simple fact is, it's a sharp lens with few serious optical problems, and you can get some great pictures with it, even on an 18 megapixel camera. Don't look down your nose at Canon's kit lens, it's nowhere near as bad as it could be. Oh, and keep your eyes open for the special L version of the lens. I'll be making a video about it real soon.